people in the 24/1 community to learn, live, and leave a legacy. We serve in three main ways. We engage with community, we collaborate with others who serve this community, and we invest the resources entrusted to us in our three priority areas of learning, living, and leaving a legacy. Next slide, please. The goals of our three coalitions are to ready the children for kindergarten by age 5, to honor the dignity of community by increasing access to life's basic needs in the Back to Basics Coalition, and supporting youth of the community to complete high school, prepared for post-secondary options and jobs in the Youth First Coalitions. But you all know that, right? Next slide, please. So before we get into the meeting, I want to talk about our meeting norms. The meeting norms for this virtual space are as following: start on time and end on time. Everyone has a voice. Intentional honesty and listening. Presume positive intent. Create relationships. Enhance conversations. Collaboration. What's learned here leaves here. To have a productive meeting, please participate, unmute yourself, and use the chat box to ask questions or engage in conversation. Respect each other's thoughts and ideas. Share valuable resources like links and files in the chat box. And remember that this meeting will be recorded and posted in the portal and on YouTube. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. Before we start our video, we have an exciting meeting coming up for you today. We will watch 3 videos about the upcoming developments in the 24/1 community, from Equity Homes, Beyond Housing, and the St. Louis County Housing Authority. We will also hear from our Director of Data and Analytics, Courtney Corman, and later we will have a panel discussion featuring our CEO, Winston Calvert, and other partners. The network continues to evolve as an organization and to add capacity to serve in this community. Before we get started in our discussion and our topic for the day, we would like to welcome one of our new members of our team, Gabby Ochoa. Gabby, would you like to introduce yourself to the network?
Sure, thank you. Hi, everybody. It's great to meet you. It's great to be here. I actually just moved to the St. Louis area in September, so I'm fresh, but I love it already. I came here from San Diego, where I worked for a member of Congress for about 3 years, and it was wonderful. I worked with veterans and military members. I'm a veteran myself, Navy veteran, and I actually come here because of the military. My husband is active duty, and so it brought us back to St. Louis. I'm excited to be here in this community. I grew up in a region not so different from this area in South Texas along the border. A lot of my peers were undocumented, and I know that a lot of their resources were not government resources. It was the community pulling together to provide that support. So I'm really excited to be a part of this team, and I know that they're doing wonderful things. I'm just really excited to be a part of it. So it's wonderful to meet you, and I hope to see everyone in a meeting at some point. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gabby. We're so excited to have her at the network. The network's growing. So after hearing from Gabby, we'll go ahead and go into our video. And from here, you'll hear from Courtney and then our panel. Casey, could you play the video, please?
We have a lot of momentum and opportunity to redevelop this community in the next 5-10 years to what we want it to be. And as we all know, opportunity can shut, the door can close on opportunity. And so while the door is open right now, we need to seize this opportunity and allow the development to come in before that door closes.
We've spent a lot of time listening to community leaders in the 24/1 area, and we know they want to attract new residents to the area. We know they want to attract and bring in more investment and new investment to the area, and to provide opportunities for people to buy and own their own home. In the past, the Community Impact Network and Equity Homes have served the 24/1 community in a number of ways, through demolition and through renovating, homes in the area to supporting the development of a new subdivision in Wellston called Eskridge Estates. All 23 homes in the Eskridge Estates subdivision sold in 51 days on the open market. The Eskridge Estates project was really a test case to prove that people would come and would invest in this community if given the opportunity to do so. And so it's building on the success of the Eskridge Estates project and building on the success of the demolition project and the renovation projects that we've developed a new model to leverage philanthropic support to provide the resources to these communities that they deserve and that they need to capitalize on the community's strengths. We know the 24-1 community wants a diversity of housing options for their residents, everywhere from assisted and supported housing all the way through and including buying and owning your own home. And we know that the 24-1 area is the best place in the St. Louis region for this type of project. There's a strong sense of community here. There's a proximity to growing job clusters around our region, north, south, east, and west around the 24-1 area. And Metrolink is here to connect people to jobs throughout the region. And we know that the community leaders in the 24-1 area, many of them don't have the kinds of resources that other community leaders have in other communities in St. Louis. And so as we've listened and we've begun working with those community leaders, we've really been working to create a new model for the way that the Community Impact Network can support the work of the community leaders to accomplish their goals and to really capitalize on all the strengths of this community. And so what we've developed is a new model that will provide those resources, some of the technical expertise and experience that is available to other municipalities, whether they're development experts or housing experts or any other kinds of expert and experience. If these communities would benefit from their expertise and experience, we'll do what we can to attract them to these projects, to bring them in to benefit this community, and to leveraging those philanthropic resources to provide the kinds of incentives that can attract the best home builders and developers to the area. We know the leaders of this community want their communities to grow and to prosper and to be places where their residents can experience economic mobility, where they can build equity through home ownership and through other means, and where there are opportunities to work and to raise a family and to age in this community. And we're working to provide the resources that their community leaders need to make those dreams a reality.
The disconnect between what people earn and what housing costs all across the country, even in St. Louis, and we're a terribly affordable marketplace compared to many others. That being said, there are still thousands and thousands of families here who can't make the math work. What we've lost over time is there used to be the covenant that if you worked hard, you paid your taxes, that you'd be able to make your way, in our society. And sadly, that's not true anymore. The wages that particularly single earners, can bring home on a weekly, monthly, annual basis is just not enough. Again, we produce affordable housing, right? We have 500 units in our portfolio. We're building another 36 single-family homes as we speak. We'll work with the Housing Authority of St. Louis County and become both managers and co-owners of a 114-unit townhouse development here in the next several months. So it's both the provision of, and again, everything that we own and manage is affordable in that the rents are below market rate as a general rule based upon the funding source that we have. We accept Section 8 subsidies. We know some folks don't, but we do because we understand that's an important tool for families to use. And then we support the families once they live in the homes. If a community is going to be strong and healthy and vibrant, it has to attract people who want to live here. A piece of that puzzle, and a big piece of the puzzle, is the housing stock. the quality of the housing stock, the price of the housing stock, the connectivity to all the other things in a place. We know in this community there are a lot of aging homes, post World War II modest bungalows that seniors live in, that they've raised their kids here and their kids are long gone. And the seniors now today don't have either the economic capacity or the interest in taking out any debt at this stage of their life, but they want to stay in their homes. So we've been fortunate over the last almost decade now to receive probably close to $12, $13 million in grant funding from a variety of sources to do owner-occupied home repair. So we're able to put new roofs, new windows, upgrade electrical, upgrade plumbing to make sure that that house stays in good shape and that senior can stay in that home longer and not worry about the deterioration around them. And we believe this idea of, yes, building new is great, but the idea of investing in, existing occupied, owner-occupied housing stock, particularly with seniors, does great things for not only those seniors living there, but we think for the broader community as well. So to the extent that we can invest in the production of, whether we're building new or rehabbing existing homes, it changes the physical landscape, the built environment. People get a sense of, wow, there's something happening here, right? That dilapidated home was knocked down, a new home was put in that spot, that long-time vacant lot now has a new home on it. Again, it increases the aesthetic value of the place, which gives people a little bit of hope about the future, but it also increases the tax base. And at the end of the day, this community, again, has to have, stronger property values, higher tax base, so the municipalities have the resources they need for public safety, for, again, funding the public education system, for funding all the things that, again, are needed, necessary to make a strong and healthy community.
All right, good morning. I'm Courtney Corman. I'm the Director of Data and Analytics here at the network. And before we jump into our panel discussion, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a background on Wellston, because we'll be focusing on that. The video we just saw talked about all of the great things going on in the 24-1. And of course, Wellston is one of the communities there. And so we'll be talking today about mostly some census data and some data we have from St. Louis County, just to set the stage here with the place we're talking about today. So Wellston had, at the most recent decennial census, is a population of 1,537 people. So, a pretty kind of smaller community, but a really great one. We've got an employment rate of 58.3%. We do have challenges with people getting health insurance. There's 6.6% people without that. We have a bachelor's degree or higher of 11.1% here in the community. And Wellston is a predominantly Black or African-American community, over 90%. If you look on the right there, you can see some data comparing Wellston both to St. Louis City and County and the nation as a whole, looking at median household income, as well as childhood poverty. So we know there's some challenges in Wellston, but we also know that there's a lot of great things going on to help this community meet those challenges. Next slide, please. So looking at Wellston population over time, Wellston was actually settled in the late 1800s, but did not become an incorporated city until 1949. And so looking at the census data from 1950 forward, you can see that there's been an overall decline through each decade, which really correlates both to Wellston was the center of the streetcar system in St. Louis, was the center of one of the main lines, and that ended in the mid-60s. But Wellston has also suffered population loss due to things like overall disinvestment by the larger community in this area, as well as things like redlining have contributed to housing issues in the past. And so it's exciting to see the community is working now towards overcoming some of these historic challenges that have existed. And so I think that in the future, we're going to see this graph shift to going back up with an increase as Wellston's able to attract new residents, which is really exciting. Next slide, please. And so lastly, I just wanted to show you guys some data regarding housing in Wellston. And this was pulled both from the census in St. Louis County. And so the median rent in Wellston is around $1,000. There's a homeownership rate of around 45%, which is a little bit lower than the surrounding area and nation as a whole. There's a fairly high vacancy rate of over 27%. But as we'll talk about, there's a lot of exciting things going on that I think are going to help contribute to that rate going down. On the right, we have a map of Wellston, and it's color coded. The blue colors are showing the years for single family houses. So we're not showing any of the multifamily homes or apartments here. But the newer the home, the darker the blue. And then that tan color is the vacant lot. And so I think what this map really shows is there's a lot of opportunity here, both for new construction, and if you'll see on the kind of the west side, southwest side there, you can see the Eskridge Estates development there, which is that kind of dark blue cul-de-sac, as well as some other developments that were built post 2000. But also, I think what you'll see in there with a lot of those light blue homes, like Chris talked about in there, is that there's a lot of aging housing stock here, and we want to help those homes that can be, you know, maintained with just a little bit of help for those residents. That's also a really important part of creating, you know, an excellent built environment for the residents here in Wellston. And so I think hopefully what I've shown you here is that Wellston is a community that has, you know, a lot of opportunity. I think there's a lot of exciting things that we're going to hear about from the panel today. But I just wanted to give you guys all a little bit more detail on the built environment here in Wellston. So I'm excited to hear what our panel has to say today, and I will hand it over to them.
The Wellston Public Housing Authority had been around for several decades. It was operating in receivership, but it was serving the people of Wellston. In 2018, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development decided it no longer wanted to keep the Wellston Housing Authority. Instead, it wanted to tear the housing there down.
We had a senior group that was meeting with St. Augustine, and they called me to St. Augustine Church to listen to the seniors and what was going on. Seniors had signed a petition thinking they were going to get their homes remodeled and rehab, but the petition was saying that they wanted them to be demolished and to relocate.
They started fighting to save their housing. They worked with people at St. Augustine, people at Legal Services, people with the City of Wellston, and eventually county officials, state officials, federal officials to ultimately save the housing in Wellston through a transition to private housing, but to save the housing for them so that they can stay in Wellston and be a part of the community where they want to be. So we're transitioning the Wellston Public Housing through a low-income housing tax credit project. The low-income housing tax credit program is the most important resource we have today for creating new affordable housing. And a very top-line description is that state housing finance agencies like the Missouri Housing Development Commission give tax credits to developers so that they can get equity to rehab housing. And so what we'll see is the public housing that the Housing Authority is now operating for the residents who are there will be transitioned to private housing on the private market.
It's about 186 units that will be rehabbed and remodeled, gutted out all the way through. It's about a $45 million project.
What we're doing in Wellston is creating a new development, a private development that has predetermined rent levels that are considered affordable. But in addition to that, the Housing Authority has committed project-based vouchers to this development where they are essentially attached to the units. Even if a rent is set at a certain level, it may not be affordable for some people. So adding a voucher to that guarantees that whoever lives there will not pay more than 30% of their income on that rent. So we can really serve very low income families, people with disabilities, seniors, by having those project-based vouchers attached to the low income housing.
This would allow us to grow our population and bring quality housing to the community. Statistics show that when you have quality housing plus a quality community, you more have a better chance of being successful. Quality housing give you an opportunity to provide equity in your community. And so when you're upgrading the housing and you're building quality homes, you're building quality families. And so families should have a quality place to stay and lay their head nightly. And so not only that, it's the best investment that you can have when you're investing into homes.
So we're essentially guaranteeing that we're going to be bringing back 186 families to Wellston, large families, families with children, and providing them with stable housing, which can be hard to find in other parts of the community. So that's going to have an impact on the school district and on other social service providers in the area and on the footprint generally.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is Winston Calvert, and appreciate everybody being here this morning. I know Mayor Griffin was on earlier. I'm looking for him on here. He may be having some technical issues, but so I will introduce this topic, and really what we were hoping to the message we were hoping to convey today was really that I know that the service, you and the other service providers in this area are at capacity or more right now. But a lot of these projects, the projects that Beyond Housing is doing, the projects that the Housing Authority and the City of Wellston have been working on, and hopefully some of the projects that we've been working on at the Community Impact Network will be attracting new people to the area, and the population will be growing. And we want to make sure that that you all are aware of some of these coming attractions and what that's going to mean for service delivery and how this community can best be served in the future. So, and one of the projects that we think and hope is going to be catalytic in this region and in this area in particular is the Housing Authority led project in Wellston. And so that's the panel discussion we're going to have today with Shannon Koenig and Mayor Griffin if he can get back on. So we're working on that as we speak. So Shannon, so I'll introduce Shannon first. Shannon Koenig is I was making notes earlier, and the phrase that came to mind was that she's the real deal, and she is. She is, in addition to being the executive director of the Housing Authority of St. Louis County, is really one of the leading minds and voices on housing policy in the region and in the Midwest. And so we're honored to have her and on this call. And so Shannon, would you want to say a few words to introduce yourself, if you can live up to that hype?
Good morning, everybody. No, I cannot live up to that hype. So Winston, that was a lovely introduction. Thank you. I am Shannon Koenig. I am the executive director for the Housing Authority of St. Louis County, and happy to be here today and talk with everyone about what's going on in Wellston. It's very exciting time and an exciting project. So happy to be here.
So tell us, Shannon, about, if you could, some of the background on this Wellston project. We heard a little bit about it in the video, but it was, this is an issue that's taken a long time to come about as a challenge for the community, and it's certainly taken a long time to get to where we are now. So could you kind of give us some more of that background and the story for the folks on the call?
Sure. So in the first time I heard about this, about the Wellston Housing Authority possibly going away, was in the fall of 2018. As I mentioned in the video, the Wellston Housing Authority was in receivership and had been for quite some time. And so it was sort of in a place of limbo in that HUD was actively running it and thinking about transitioning it to the City of Wellston to take back over. And instead they took a hard turn and said, no, we think that it should be torn down. So HUD was actively negotiating with the Housing Authority of St. Louis County to take over the Wellston Public Housing Authority and tear everything down and give the land back to
the city. So about that time, I think the community was definitely opposing what was going on, and hearing rumblings of that. The county executive at that time was not interested in intervening in any kind of way. So we were heading down that path. The Housing Authority of St. Louis County took over the Wellston Housing Authority and was preparing to demolish all the units. And then, interestingly, we had a change in the political landscape, and Sam Page took office. And I think everybody in the community who had been fighting to save the Wellston Public Housing thought that there was a chance with Sam Page that things could go differently, because Sam Page had a role in ultimately approving whether or not all of these buildings could be demolished and this could go through. So in the spring of 2019, when Sam Page took office, we had Beyond Housing, Legal Services, and the city of Wellston working together, approached me about this issue, making sure that we were going to get it in front of the new county executive. I worked for the former county executive and then for Sam Page. And so in Winston, this is where we met. And we at the same time, we had the community asking for us to listen to them. We had the Housing Authority and HUD asking us to go ahead and demolish, and for Sam Page to sign off on that. Then began the conversations with Sam Page about why this issue was important. How did we arrive here? My position was always that the people in Wellston, were fighting for their home, for their rights to stay in Wellston. And I saw this as an equity issue, where there have been a lot of communities in the St. Louis area that have been easier, quote, to demolish or get rid of. And it would be, nearly impossible to save. But I felt like in this community, these folks deserve to have their voices amplified and heard, and for local officials to act on their voices. And so that was my pitch to Sam Page and to Winston, who agreed. And that really changed the course of the direction of saving the housing in Wellston and making a new investment in Wellston. Winston.
Let's get back to the part about me being the hero of the story. So
yes, how else
yeah,
can we assure that you are the hero? Winston wrote a fabulous letter to under Sam Page's name to HUD. Enlisted, from there we enlisted the help of Lacey Clay, Senator Blunt, who Mayor Griffin was also talking with, and just started building a coalition of, like I said, in the video, local, state, and federal officials who were listening to what was going on. Eventually got the ear of HUD, the HUD secretary. Mayor Griffin went to Washington, D.C. to meet with the HUD secretary. And there was a conversation there that resulted in, okay, Wellston, St. Louis County, you all have 120 days to come up with a plan, an alternate plan for what you're going to do with the housing in Wellston. Beside, if we don't tear it down, what's the plan? So from there, we convened a group of stakeholders. We had construction companies at the table, developers at the table, just a couple of people who were there to give input, background on using tax credits, on how much rehab would cost. We had experts looking at the facilities themselves, the buildings themselves, assuring us that they were safe and sound, it could be rehabbed. We had local officials and their representatives, and advocates, and the Housing Authority, and everybody was around the table discussing what we were going to do. We ultimately came up with rehabbing the public housing using a 4% tax credit deal, because that was pretty much a sure thing, as opposed to a 9% tax credit, which is has to be awarded to you as competitive. We submitted that plan to HUD. We were not able to save all 201 units of the public housing because Some of them were just beyond repair, but 186 of them we felt we could rehab and repair and bring back to life. And we submitted that to HUD. The Housing Authority at the time committed also to having 186 project-based vouchers attached to the project to ensure there's going to be folks living there and that there'll be a revenue stream. And with that, HUD said, okay, we're not going to make you tear it down. We're going to let you have it and go ahead and do your tax credit deal. And that's how we got where we are today.
Yeah, so, one of the things that was, so remarkable about the process, I thought, was the number of and the diversity of voices around the table. I remember meetings with in the public housing, one of the public housing units in Wellston with Senator Blunt and Congressman Clay and legal services and a lot of the other stakeholders.
Yes.
And I think that that was really critical to it. I think Mayor Griffin is now on the call. So Mayor, thank you for joining us today. Mayor, could you talk a little bit about what that was like? I know as elected officials, sometimes folks think that they're always fighting, and this was one of the rare instances, I think, where really people who may not be perceived by the public as having a lot in common come together to really rally around and fight for folks who don't have as much of a voice in a lot of those rooms. And you were instrumental to that, Mayor, in leading that charge. So if you could talk a little bit about that, that would be great.
Thank you, Winston. Thank you, everyone. How you doing today?
Doing well, Mayor Griffin.
Yes,
Yep.
Definitely a great experience, especially coming from Washington, D.C. Everyone patiently waiting on what was the message that came from Washington, D.C. and really leaving there with them feeling we wasn't going to be able to come up with that plan. And the reason why is because when you have to bring so many different leaders together to make things happen, and it's always been a problem in the state of Missouri. And so when we came back and I talked to Shannon, I talked to Winston about the decision that was made in Washington, D.C. to give us 120 days to come up with a plan, we had to think about who all can we bring to the table and was we going to be able to bring those individuals to the table. And so when we was able to bring Senator Blunt, Senator Holly, Senator Brown Williams, County Executive Dr. Page, Congressman Clay, and all the other politicians that came, because even State Rep Kevin Windham was in on it, on whatever he could do and help. But for all of us to sit around a table, and again, for the first time, politicians said this is the first time that this has happened, where all of us is sitting around the round table for one goal, to help one community, and that was different. And I think it's also a movement and a blueprint of what needs to happen in the future, of bringing all our politicians together to talk about not only the city of Wellston, but the other communities that's surrounding the state. So it was exceptional to be able to bring those leaders together to come up with a plan, but to execute the plan. And we're still in executing the plan, but we would not be this far if it wasn't for those politicians coming together with open hearts and open minds to be able to deliver for the city of Wellston. And everybody played a part. Everybody played a role and gave crucial information, but they lend their staff and a helping hand to bring this project to reality.
Well, I know, Senator Blunt was instrumental in that, and he, I know his chief of staff asked me at the time to make sure they didn't get credit for helping, but I think now that they're on their way out of office, I can give them credit. So they were instrumental in making that happen, and rarely do you get the kind of attention that the Mayor Griffin and the city of Wellston and really the residents of public housing in Wellston got from Senator Blunt and others. Mayor, I know that there are a lot of, this investment, this this public investment in this project is, you know, in the 40 million, in excess of $40 million total in Wellston. And so that is leading to a lot of other interest in the area. Could you talk a little bit about that and things that are happening or that have happened recently in connection with that, and then some things that are coming attractions?
Yes, and let me know with so much going on, so much momentum. Let me know if I leave anything out. If Shannon on this call, she usually back me up pretty well when I leave something out. But yes, we have so many great things happen. First off, cleaning out all the vegetation and the nuisance properties in the community, seeing green space. We have had so many dilapidated homes, overgrown lots of vegetation. And with the support of Equity Homes, we are able to open up and see green space in our community to attract the developers. That's important because we understand that the public housing is going to be an anchor for other developments to come. We have the Eskridge Estates development. 100% of those homes gone has sold, which eliminates the myth that they will not come to Wellston. If you build, they will come. And Equity, the Eskridge Estates showed that if you build, they will come. We have 100+ home housing development looking to come in Lulu Heights with 18 storefronts. And so that is something else that is coming down the pipeline, is that housing development in Lulu Heights. We also have a couple hundred home scattered site development that a few individuals are looking interested in doing. That will bring some excitement to the community because we want to grow the population tremendously. And so with those housing developments, we're really looking at Martin Luther King and Pace to be able to bring in other mixed use developments to be able to support the growth of the population because we want to grow it tremendously. And also we have some potential investors looking at the Moog federal building and that site to be able to do some developments, as well as the Wellston Holdings and Plymouth Holdings, just trying to figure out what's going on with the environmentals in those areas. But those two spots are ideal spots for developments as well. And so we do have a lot of momentum. We have a lot of things going on. We're looking at a family education recreational center in the community that's going to be a social service hub, not only for Wellston, but we wanted to be a social service hub for the 24/1 footprint, because we understand with building these homes, which is a great investment, where we also must invest into the people and invest services into uplifting the people that will be coming to those homes and coming to this community, because this community have been neglected for so long. And so we understand that subsidies and resources must be a part. But all of those things we understand will be a part of this development, and it's crucial to developing this community and the people of this community.
And so, Mayor, you're right. It's a diversity of things. It's a wide variety of coming attractions, and I think the diversity of housing options are going to bring in a diversity of people. You know, and could you talk a little bit about what kinds of services the existing residents of Wellston and the incoming residents of Wellston will be looking for from service providers like those on this call?
Good question, Winston. And I would start with, first off, mental behavior health is something that we you cannot ignore at this day and time, to be able to support a community like this, again, who's been disinvested and been neglected for so long. A lot of people in this community have been traumatized with a lot of things that have happened over the last couple of decades. So that is something that's dear to everyone's heart. But we have wraparound services like, for instance, St. Augustine, who's a non-for-profit in our community, who may not be a part of, if we cannot find a place for them to go, but they offer things like rental assistance, medical assistance, prenatal assistance, food pantry, a thrift store to be able to help. We have a lot of kids that's unfortunate enough to not be able to go to malls and get them shoes. And so being able to go to St. Augustine and get them a nice pair of shoes and a nice pair of pants is something that's dear to them and their family hearts. Be able to have a place, again, a family education recreational center for families can go and grow mentally, emotionally, physically, and also be able to interact socially. There's nowhere in your community where you can interact socially. And that's important to growth and development and community chemistry. And so those type of things are a recreational space, so kids can exert their energy physically. I mean, those are the things that's really needed, and we go by on a day-to-day basis, not understanding how important those things to everyday life and everyday development and growth. And so just those few things there alone would change the dynamic and the DNA of our community.
Well, and I think before I know we're reaching the time that we kind of set aside for this conversation. I think but we do want to open it up for questions from the partners and members that are on the call. So one thing I want you both to hopefully take away from this conversation is that the Community Impact Network and the Equity Homes, and also all of the members and partners that are on this call, have your back, and we are here to serve this community and to work with you in doing so. So if folks on this call want to get in touch with you, is the email address that's on the screen? Is that the best way to link up with you?
I give it. I don't know. I can't see the screen.
It's the wellstonmayor@yahoo.com. Is that good?
Yes, that's the official. That's wellstonmayor@yahoo.com. I said someone sent a question about cleanup. Cleanup is all needed. We always need a crew to clean up. Listen, Equity Homes is doing a great job with helping us clean the community, but it's so much that we need as much help, because that's one thing we want to do is beautify the community, where developers come in and they don't see overgrown vegetation. They don't see trash on the ground. They don't see the dilapidated homes. And so as much help, we've been having Habitat for Humanity and others coming in, helping us clear out vegetation for lots. So we're welcoming with open arms any kind of cleanup, any kind of vegetation removal. That will be tremendous for the community, and that's top priority. But again, Winston, yes, wellstonmayor@yahoo.com. It's my email. My personal telephone number is 314-496-1428.
And as a washed up political advisor, I'll just say there was a candidate I know who put their number on their campaign signs, and that was a big mistake. So I'm just warning you that you're going to get a lot of calls, hopefully. So the penultimate question I'll ask, and then I'll open it up, is the timeline. And maybe this is go back to Shannon for this. What's the anticipated timeline right now for this development to close and for the project to the construction to start?
Very close to a closing, I would say, here in the next couple of months. By the first quarter of next year, we'll close on this. Construction will be about 2 years. What we're going to do is, as we get units rehabbed, we'll be bringing them online immediately. So then the first 6 to 9 months, we'll start bringing units online and moving families in. So it's very exciting. I think we'll start to see that next year.
So hopefully by mid 2023, people will be moving in.
I would say for all of 2023, we will start moving families in.
Cool. And the last question I'll ask of you all is, each of you, what are, as I said earlier, those of us on this call are here to serve the community and to serve the 24/1 area and to serve the folks that you both work with every day in Wellston. What are the lessons from this whole process, this last several years, that you've taken away from it, that would maybe be useful or beneficial to the rest of us on the call? And I'll start with Mayor Griffin, maybe.
I would say community voice, Winston. Community voice community involvement, community engagement, because every community is different. And so you have to cater to community needs, and because every community is authentic. And so just listening to the community, supporting the community, even myself of being part of this community, born and raised here, I'm still just a piece of the community, no bigger than anyone else. And so in order just to listen to the community and bring what the community wants and needs, and the services of supporting them have been one of the biggest things I have learned, is just, again, letting the community be authentic, letting the community have a voice and be able to speak on what they would like to see in their community.
Ms. Koenig, what do you think?
Yeah, Mayor Griffin, I totally agree with you. That's a great comment, and your community is definitely at the center here. And I love that, always listening to you all and what you want to do. I would say that doing the right thing is often a lot of work or difficult in community development and housing, but worth it. And when it's worth it, you can stick to it. And it takes a lot of dedication and perseverance to get things done, but it's the right thing, and keep at it.
And also, Winston, again, just touching bases on what with the collaboration we had to do with all the politicians to understand that across the nation, if we all put down our differences, whether Democrat, Republican, white, black, man, and woman, we can accomplish anything. There's nothing we cannot accomplish as men, as human, as women, as a human nation, if we all come together and put down our differences. There's nothing we can accomplish. There's no milestone we cannot overcome. There's no barriers we cannot break down. No mountain high, no valley low enough. If we all come together, we can do it.
That's I feel like we should all be standing up and applauding now. Ailey, what do you want to maybe look at the questions that are coming in on the chat, or how do you want to handle this?
Sure. So I will go ahead and let you guys know some of the questions that we're having in the chat. So we have one question that says, I would love information on how to find affordable housing for my families. So if anybody on the panel has any suggestions or advice on that.
Well, I would say I'm looking to have some affordable homes built in Wellston. So once we get them, your family is welcome here. So I would start by saying,
I'm happy to take inquiries about that as well, in terms of what the Housing Authority does and how someone can be a part of our programs. So if you want to email me, I'm happy to connect on that.
And someone else just expressed the need and the challenges that folks face trying to get funding for housing. And so I think that was more of a comment for the panel. Mia, if you would like to, you're on the call. She's one of our partners. If you'd like to expound on that question, you can go ahead.
Yes. I serve prenatal and postpartum moms in the 24/1 footprint, working with Nurses for Newborns as a community health worker. And I'm finding that when moms, especially prenatal moms and postpartum moms, need housing and they can't afford the funding, talking about if it's a down payment, there's a lot of agencies out there that don't have the funding all the time, and will Wellston have funding for them through grants so they can be able to afford, to move in these homes?
Now, I would say the city of Wellston won't have grants, but I think we have opportunities where we may be able to get subsidies. Now, I can't promise that. We all understand the dynamics of Wellston and trying to turn first-time homeowners into homeowners. That is a process. And I think most people who deal in this field understand that subsidies sometimes needs to happen in order to make first-time home buyers. But right now, the city of Wellston do not have anything in place. But again, that don't mean in the future that we won't have partnerships or alliances that can help with those type of things.
Would you have Section 8? Would you accept Section 8 vouchers? Because a lot of our moms do have Section 8 vouchers.
Well, that would be the 180 some homes that now, and this would be the thing, those homes would be project-based vouchers, which is kind of similar, the same. If they able to get those Section 8 vouchers, they should be approved for project-based vouchers, Shannon, I'm thinking. So we will open up our waiting list. And so we have 186 homes that would be available for those vouchers coming up rather shortly. That's what Shannon was talking about. That would be a 2-year process that will start in the beginning of next year. And those homes will come online in Wellston, hopefully in the middle of next year or by the end of next year, to be able to have people to be able to go in. But those are public assistant homes that will be able to be used for vouchers. Yes, ma'am.
So just on the wait list side, we have not opened the wait list yet, but when the project closes and gets underway, we will open the wait list, and we'll be sure to publicize that broadly so folks can sign up to live here in Wellston.
And Shannon, but she will be able to use, can't they use those Section 8 vouchers as well?
Yes, well, the wait list is to get a project-based voucher in Wellston, so that's what that would be for, yes.
Thank you.
Right, well, I see the chat is on today, so there's some more comments. I think Shannon answered the wait list question from one of our partners in their comments that you all can check out, but we're gonna close our question and answer session. Panelists, do you all have any closing thoughts before we move on to our announcements and closing? Okay. All right. Okay, well, that was such an awesome panel. I know I learned a lot. And so snaps in the chat for folks. And like the mayor said, it ain't no mountain high enough. So that's exactly how we will end our meeting, on a high note with the Supremes. So we have an announcement for our trauma training coming up. Those who signed up, participants, this is just a reminder. You should have gotten an email that our trauma training is November 16th from 8:30 to 12:30 at the network building. If you signed up and have not gotten information, please be sure to reach out to me. My email is at the bottom of this slide. Next slide, please. You know what time it is. I know what time it is. It's award time. This is just a reminder that the end of the year award ceremony, A Night with Our Service Stars, is coming up next month. This event will honor the great work being done by our partners. A part of the evening, we will be presenting 3 awards, which we shared with you at our last meeting. The event will be held on December 8th, and you see the rest of the information on the screen. And Andrea created a cool RSVP right there. So if you want to RSVP right while we're on the call in the moment, I want to give you like half a second, screenshot that and RSVP right now, because we are so excited to celebrate you all. And I'll give you a second. Okay, RSVP moving. Next slide, please. And finally, here are some of our important dates that are coming up for the network. November 16th, like I mentioned, our trauma training. December 8th, like I mentioned, our end of year award ceremony at Third Degree Glass Factory. January 15th will be our quarterly metrics due for grantees. And then our 2023 coalition meeting dates will be announced soon. Partners, it has been a joy to spend time with you this year. I look forward to seeing you at the award ceremony along with the rest of the network. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on the red carpet.
Thank you, Ailey. Thank you all. Thank you, Jean.
You.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.